All right. Welcome to EETF 51. My name is Patrick, and with me tonight, I have Nick Bambach. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me again, Patrick.
Always a pleasure. I also have Mike Drew. Hello.
Hello. Thanks again for having me, and I'll try to stop saying that because every episode I sound the same, so I apologize.
That's okay. And back on the show, we have Hector Contreras. How are you, sir?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks. And I know you are joining us on short notice, so thank you for that. It's much appreciated.
Hey, my pleasure. I love when I'm available and I can just jump right on the laptop and open up and without any preparation, just be off the cuff.
Yes, so buyer beware.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize to everyone that's listening.
Oh, no, please don't. Please don't.
I'm just happy we get Hector after dark. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
I'm just so happy we get that.
Yes. Okay, so usually we would jump right in with the movies, but I do have two bonus questions for this episode. So the first question would be, which big movie have you never seen? So we can start with Nick. What do you have in mind?
So I'm like the film person around here. Like I have a film degree. I've seen thousands of movies. I run a movie club. I've written about movies. I've taught film studies. This was actually a hard question, but I had to go to Letterboxd because there's a way that you could sort to see what are the biggest movies in terms of popularity or critical acclaim. And I wrote a dozen down, and I'll give you a few of them afterwards, Patrick, if you want. But
Okay.
One that I'm kind of surprised that I have not seen is The Green Mile.
Okay.
I was about 10 when that came out, and I think I was too young, of course, to see it, but also it's a 3-hour movie, and, I think that's probably the reason.
It's a pretty decent adaptation of a Stephen King book. It's not amazing, but I'd say it's good.
Yeah, it's a Best Picture nominee, and it was a big hit. I remember when it came out, they had like the 2 VHS edition, and I always was impressed. I'm like, oh, a movie has 2 VHSs?
They're not getting around anymore. Yeah, they are going for it. Absolutely.
And this is when DVDs were a thing, by the way. So,
Yes.
but yeah, that's probably the biggest one. But I'll just list a few others. RoboCop, I've never seen. I've never seen Master and Commander, Baby Driver, Nomadland, Paris, Texas, Barry London, Life of Brian.
Ooh, Life of Brian.
There are a couple in there that don't belong with the rest of the list,
Yeah.
like Baby Driver. Who gives a shit?
Oh, well, I do really like the director.
Edgar Wright?
Yeah, Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
And the music is good on that too.
Yes, but Ansel Elgort cancels him out in this
Well-
case, I'd say.
Also, Kevin Spacey's in it too. So,
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
That was like the
One,
last
two.
big one he did before it was like bye-bye career for Kevin Spacey. I think.
I think it was, right?
yeah, I think it was.
Because he did a couple like smaller movies or movies that weren't really well received, but that was like the biggest one I think I at least I remember seeing.
Baby Driver. It was all right, but, nothing special, honestly. It was okay.
Everyone I know really liked it, and they're like, I know what my blind spots are with years because of different things like moving or grad school or things like that, or too young. So, like, I kind of looked at it. I was like, oh, well, okay, this makes sense why I didn't see this or that. And yeah, that's just some of the movies. But The Green Mile is probably my biggest oversight.
Barry Lyndon is surprising from a film student.
Can I give you a hot take?
Oh, that's true. You don't like Kubrick. I remember that.
Here's the thing. He's a great filmmaker. I don't think there's any doubt. Like, Dr. Strangelove is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's like the least Kubrick movie out there. But I think he is also a pretentious filmmaker. And I think the fact that it's like David Lynch, I feel like the same way a little, because film studies students have ruined Kubrick for me, because everyone always cites, 2001. That's why I became a filmmaker or a Clockwork Orange or whatever. And it grinds my gears, so to speak. But Kubrick is like, he's a great artist. I find very overrated and philosophical. And it's like how we joke around with them bags like prog rock bullshit. I feel like that's what it kind of is. It's just bullshit, kind of.
Kubrick bullshit.
Existential bullshit. That's like has to be 3 hours, no matter what it seems.
He's the Lou Reed of filmmaking. Oh, sorry. Did I? Oops. Oops. Sorry.
Yeah, with you.
Piping hot takes tonight. Jesus. And we are barely 5 minutes in. Hector, go ahead. Sorry.
There are a couple Kubrick films that I didn't see, I still haven't seen. I think just because maybe just growing up, I've seen some of those 80s, 90s ones. So those just kind of always in the zeitgeist. But I haven't seen, like, I was doing the same thing that Nick did. I was going through Letterboxd to see, like, ones I haven't seen. I'm like, oh yeah, I've never seen Paths of Glory. I like kind of fair weather with war films in general, just because I've seen all the ones from 60s and up, but that was one that's a blind spot for me.
That's actually a great anti-war movie. And that's actually one of the movies I do like that he did, because that's with Kirk Douglas. And that's like probably the most pacifist war movie I think I could think of. Because it's really just like a trial, essentially.
Aren't most movies after like the 60s, any war movie is like an anti-war movie pretty much? Because it was a lot of like World War II, after World War II, maybe Korea. You know, they had like all those movies from the 40s and 50s were all rah-rah, American, and then I think just a lot of, after that, it just became a lot of anti-war sentiments, like not directly, but just kind of in the theme.
I've never watched a Kubrick movie because it's a Kubrick movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I The Shining,
Yeah,
it's not a great film in my opinion. I don't care that it's Kubrick or not. Full Metal Jacket is a great film. Don't care that it's a Kubrick film. I don't have my degree in film studies, but I took film studies at university. And yeah, I mean, I know that that's a name that comes up, but for me, it's just not I don't go, oh, it's a Kubrick movie, I've got to watch it. Or just like a Coppola movie or anybody else. It's not a thing for me. But again, I'm not as big a film buff clearly as you are.
I agree with that. Just because I didn't come up, like the name Kubrick didn't really stand out until I'm trying to think of what movie in the 90s would have like been like, oh, well, now let's put a spotlight on the fact that it's a Kubrick film.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And literally his career was shut because he died right after.
Did he not do anything else in the 90s? I can't even remember.
No, he has major gaps in his career.
Full Metal Jacket and then Eyes Wide Shut, right?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So like a 10-year gap, pretty much, or like a 12-year gap.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Even like The Shining was 7 years before, and Buried London, it's 5. And yeah, he takes major gaps. Like his most prolific decade's probably the 60s, where he had like 4 movies at least. I think it's Spartacus, Lolita, Doctor Strangelove, and 2001. Yeah, those are the 4 movies. Yeah. Wow, it's sad that I know this and I don't like it at all.
You've got a brain for it, Nick. It just comes secondhand.
Also, really fast, just to add to Barry Lyndon for a sec, I had a professor in my undergrad who wrote a book about Barry Lyndon, and she was a very boring teacher, and I kind of flat out refused to watch the movie too, because her classes were so boring that she made it uninteresting. And I think when I was there, she taught a graduate class on, like, I think her thing was space and film, like mise en scène, like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Everything in front of the camera. And she wrote a book about Barry Lyndon, and I guess was about that, and it just sounded so boring. So, sorry.
By association, the movie must be boring if the teacher is.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Well, it's like when you meet fans of a band and you're like, oh, I don't like these people. And then you're like, I'm not going to like that band.
Same concept. So, Mike, what about you?
I'll keep mine short and sweet. I have never seen most of the Marvel movies. If I watched them, I'd be on my own. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just not for me. I'm not a big superhero guy. I don't dislike them. You know, the ones I've seen, I've liked. But I just don't go out of my way for it because to be honest, I'd rather see a really good comedy, or I'd rather see a drama as well. And I know that those things can be both, but it's just not something that really interests me that much. So
I'm all with you, Mike, because to me, I miss in Hollywood where you'd have like a good studio movie. I think there's a lost art to that. I think we're starting to slowly see that now.
Yeah.
Because movies like The Flash, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later, even like Ant-Man 3, like they kind of tanked at the box office. So there's just definitely a decline in superhero movies. And when I tell people in my movie club and friends and whatever, it's like genres, they always have ups and downs. And there's always going to be like a downhill spiral at some point with genres. That happens all the time. It's just the fact of life. And I think it's sort of on the decline right now.
Yeah, the problem is in this cycle, in the superhero movie cycle, it's a lot more about money than previously. So they need to keep the machine going, you know? And I don't know. Like, for example, Indiana Jones is tanking hard right now. And some people say that it could be a crippling blow to the studios.
I also think obviously the last 3 years, especially the start of 3 years ago when the pandemic started, watching habits changed. And I don't think
Yes.
there's a lot of people that, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago that would have went, let's go see Indiana Jones, right? Even knowing that the last one was terrible, let's give this one a shot. Whereas I think a lot of people are just like, we're all spoiled for choice. And it's like, let's just wait till it comes on.
I think it's also the fact that like going to a movie was like an event and people like plan their days around going to the movies. Like there's a whole procedure, I feel like. And now it's because everything's literally on your remote that you could literally watch movies that are in theater sometimes. I mean, I would never spend $20 on renting a movie, but I'm sure I know some people who do, and I think they're insane. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's people go for convenience over actually going out of their way to see a movie. It's kind of like it's the same model almost as like the music industry, where people would sort of go to the record stores, they have to go to buy it. Now it's at your disposal. Like you can listen to the new album by Jason Isbell or whoever. And I think you miss like socialization. There's a lot that I think gets lost in the mix.
Speaking of socialization, apparently, and I have no idea because I pretty much avoid theaters right now, but apparently people don't behave anymore. Apparently it's gotten a lot worse in the past few years.
Worse. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I went to go see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which I think I talked about in the last episode, the one before.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was only me and like a mother and like two kids. And the two kids had no business being there. And they're just running around the theater. It's like, you can't say anything, of course, but you're just like, get your shit together, people.
You can.
Apparently the very first movie I ever went to see, my mom took me to when I was 3, and she says I was too young at this point. She realizes that obviously in hindsight, was The Jungle Book. And as a 3-year-old, I was running up and down the aisle, and like I was a good kid. I'm not just saying that. Like I know I was. And I think there's just an age where with kids it's different. And I connected with what Patrick said because I was thinking more of adults, It's just like
with these?
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
Yes.
And by these, it's a phone.
Yeah. Nick held up a phone.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about, like, I had seen a lot of films because my parents had the HBO Showtime package, and I was kind of lucky that they get to watch as many movies, but, I was interested in movies, and then I was just watching movies on TV, and definitely movies I shouldn't have been watching, but they at least knew better, at least in the theater. It's strange when you see, like, I've seen a handful more of movies that parents bring their kids to, and I feel nervous. I saw Slither. Do you remember that movie Slither with, I think in 2005, and it was like a horror movie with little slugs, and it was bloody and gory, and there's 2 kids that are under the age of 5 that I just get nervous. Like, I don't know what to do here. I can't stop thinking about it. And it's like, I stuff I didn't pick up on the movie because the whole time I'm concentrating, like, oh my God, please cover his eyes or something like that. He can't see this.
Oh, Hector, I went to go see John Wick 4 a few months ago, and there's
Stop it. Really?
Yes, no, I kid you not. There was a family, like, they must have been a group of 10, and, like, 2 of the kids could not have been more than, like, 8 years old. I'm thinking, like, you're watching this 3-hour violent Keanu Reeves movie? Like, what is going on? And it was, like, a packed theater, but still, yeah.
Wow.
There was one time I saw Machete, the Danny Trejo, and there was a family there. I knew there were a couple kids, but then all of a sudden I heard a baby crying. Like, it's just, I don't like his baby's really going to pick up on any of this, but it's still just, I understand, from a family perspective. Yeah, of course, it's tough to get a babysitter. It's tough to do all this. But again, they were trying to really hone in on the fact that, like, you can wait for streaming and wait for DVD. I think at that time it still was kind of fresh, but I mean, it was like, they introduced Redbox. They introduced, movies you can stream on streaming packages or whatever it is. But it's just, I don't know. It makes me nervous.
So I think there's a theory behind that because, like, movies usually, when they came out in theaters, these usually was a minimum of 3 months before it got to home video.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. But then it was really like 4 or 5 months. Right. And then it took but the time it went from theaters to HBO, probably like 9 months. Right. Showtime, HBO, whatever. Now they do it so quickly. That's why a movie like Elemental or The Flash, they don't make as much money because parents say to themselves, okay, it costs a lot to go to the movies. It costs an arm and a leg to get anything concessions. we're just going to wait for Disney Plus or Max. And it's like they kind of created their own catastrophe in that way, like financially.
Yeah,
That's true.
but I will blame the teenagers for always ruining the movies from nowadays.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Let's not mince words. I saw, what was that movie that Justin Long, the horror movie that Justin Long was in recently?
Barbarian?
Barbarian, yeah. So I saw Barbarian, and that just invites a young audience of just people just screaming at the screen, which is, it's part of the whole package. It's part of the whole thing. You should expect that if you're going to go see a horror movie, especially if you're going to go get like a 10 o'clock showing or 9 o'clock showing. But yeah, sometimes they just do it on purpose because it's just, teens just scream at the screen and there's nothing going on. They just scream at
their phone,
their phone or, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't remember it quite like that as a kid, but, you just notice it more. And I hate to sound like that cranky old coot that's Nick waving his cane in the air like, be quiet, I'm trying to watch my stories.
Back in my day, I called it the pictures.
Yeah.
So, Mike, do you have other movies in mind that you haven't seen?
No, I mean, I think in the last episode I mentioned The Fast and the Furious as well. I haven't seen any of them.
I've seen the first one.
Okay.
What is wrong with you people? Don't get it. I'm kidding.
I saw the first one and I was like, this is Point Break. I've already seen this. And I was like, I didn't need to see any other ones after that. But then I heard it's a lot different. So I don't know.
So, Hector, what do you have for movies that you've never seen? Big movies.
I'm looking through the list. There are a couple like Oscar movies that I'm surprised I've never seen The Pianist with Adrian Brody.
Oh, okay. It's awesome.
I also have never seen The Piano with Holly Hunter. I guess I just don't watch piano movies.
Yes.
I haven't seen, there's a bunch of Kurosawa that I've never seen. I own Ikaru because I like that movie a lot, but I have never seen Ran. And that's like...
Oh, that's the King Lear one. That's really good.
Yeah. Sometimes with historical stuff, I have to be in the right mood, and it just, for whatever reason, never been in the right mood.
It's also pretty long.
That's also a deal breaker.
That can be a problem. That's true. Anything else in mind?
You know what I haven't seen that it's been on my list for a long time, but just know it's such a bummer is Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, yes.
That's a really good movie.
I've heard everything about it, and I just it just seems like such a bummer. But it is on my list. Like, I gotta see that. It's like
yeah, it is, and it's good.
It's good, yeah. Everyone said it's great.
For me, 2 titles jumped in my mind when I remembered that question. The first one is, okay, that gotta, backtrack a few years, but I've never seen E.T.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, no joke.
You had the 40th anniversary last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year.
Last year.
Yes, but I mean, it's too late now.
It's not too late. It's still on video. They didn't burn all the copies, Patrick.
That little alien dude still makes me cry. Like, we did it for my movie club. That was the first movie we did this year. I'm crying, watching this at 10 o'clock on that. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me?
I have it's going to sound weird, but I have a very good memory when it comes to the films that I've seen. I don't remember, my first birthday, like third birthday or fourth birthday, but I do remember that I saw E.T. at the local theater, and that was at 85 when it was released, because I was too young for when it originally came out. But when it was released in 85, I remember seeing it and then freaking out the first time that you see E.T. I won't spoil anything for you, Patrick, because you're going to have to go see that right away.
Thanks.
So I think I'm the only person here who saw it in 82 when it came out. And the only reason I really remember it was because it was out in the summer of 82. And I had broken my leg 2 weeks before school ended for the summer. And it was one of the few things that I actually did that summer, the first month, because I had this cast, I had a really bad break. And I remember hobbling with my crutches at 7 years old in the theater. And at the time we had some actual independent theaters downtown Oshawa. And that was the movie I went to go see. So I remember that.
Wow.
Did you connect because he kind of walks funny in that movie?
No. I remember my friend getting the Atari game, which there's a documentary about how awful that is.
It is legendary how awful.
There is a landfill filled with those.
Yep.
Awful.
Another one I've never seen, same age bracket, if you like, Goonies. Never seen it.
I've never seen that either.
And it's too late. Same with E.T., pretty sure I wouldn't enjoy it at all.
Okay, so if you have any, and Patrick, you don't have any children.
I don't.
If you have somebody who has children that you can borrow one. Watch it with them, because my son,
Rent a kid.
even my son, we showed it to him when I think he was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
And he loved it. It's a great movie, but you got to get that infectious joy that a kid brings to it, even now, because the story is brilliant. And I would say it's probably one of my top 25 movies of all time.
Oh, okay.
And I get that it's like the nostalgia of being a kid and stuff, but even when we showed it to my son and he loved it, I think it was actually that first summer of the pandemic, that was one of the movies we watched, and he really liked it too.
But I mean, I guess it makes sense what you're saying about like the infectious enthusiasm, if you like. My niece is 5. I guess I would need to wait a few years.
Give her a few.
Unless I want to see her freak out like Drew Barrymore did.
Well, there's a couple swear words, right? Like not many.
Okay.
But there's like one of the characters, Chunk, who uses some colorful language. Corey Feldman uses some colorful language. And it was funny because I've showed it to kids in my class before, like a year-end movie, because a lot of them actually haven't seen it, and they all love it too. But I know where those words are, so I always cough really loudly or something. And the kids are like, what's going on?
You like lower the volume. Like, oh, no.
That's
there must
right.
be a glitch in the DVD.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, guys. Sorry about that. Well, you know what's really funny too is that my wife grew up in the UK, as I've probably mentioned, and she was used to the BBC version. So we had watched it, and she was like, he doesn't say that. And I'm like, yes, he does. It's because they will take out the bad, like, for example, on Die Hard, when he says, I can't even think of what he says.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So on the BBC version, it's Yippee-ki-yay Kimosabi. So when she first saw the real version, she was like, wait, what? Like, so it's funny how it connected like so differently in different places too. So
I knew about the Mr. Falcon deal with that line.
Yeah, Mr. Falcon, yeah.
Right.
But the Kimosabe, this first time I heard that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
You haven't lived until you watched like rated R action movies in your hotel on TNT. Those are some of the funnest memories of my teenage years.
We were in Vermont a few years ago, and Lethal Weapon 2 was on.
Yes.
Yeah. So that I was like, oh, I don't remember that part. I don't remember Pesci saying that or whatever, but it's pretty.
There's one, and there's like a famous one in The Big Lebowski that when that's on TV.
Oh yeah, when you meet a stranger in the Alps.
Yeah, when you meet a stranger in the Alps. And I'm like, that's a little different. I mean, so there's some wild ones. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had The Goonies, but it was taped off in ABC when it was on like ABC or something like that. This is from like maybe like late 80s. And yeah, everything it's edited to shit. It's just like they cut scenes out. I don't remember if they changed the language because I hadn't seen that copy in a while, but I think they just cut the scenes entirely if like there was like anything. Yeah, so I remember it being a short version of the movie.
It probably doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it probably didn't make sense. And then like we recorded it like so like the recording starts like 5 minutes into the movie, so that whole intro, it's all missing, like the whole Fratelli's like getaway. So it's just like, how did I make sense of any of this? I filled in the gaps in my brain, I guess.
That's funny.
All right. I guess I could add to that list, but those are the two that jumped to my mind right away. We can move on to the other question. The second question is, what is the biggest amount of money you've paid for a live event? Sports or concert or whatever else. So, Nick, let's start with you.
This is actually a question that I always ask myself all the time if I ever go to a concert or a sporting event or anything like that. My limit, I don't know about anyone else, is always $250. $250 is the most I will ever pay for a ticket. And then anything after $250, it's like an all-time favorite band or a once-in-a-lifetime kind of sport event that I'm like, oh, shit.
Or a happy ending at the end.
Yeah. Well, that's
an event.
That's an event right there. It's like 3, 2, 1. Okay. Anyway, so I was trying to think of like what I actually spent the most on, and I think the most money I spent on a ticket was when I went to the 2019 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction at the Barclays Center a few years ago, and I think I paid a little over $250 for the tickets, but they were like near the floor. And, Barclays Center, I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's in Brooklyn. It's a lovely theater, and it's so nicely air conditioned. And yeah, we saw like you saw so much, like of the industry people. And yeah, that's the most I've personally ever spent myself. I mean, I'm sure there's like probably like a baseball game that my dad, when it was like, I think went to one of the World Series games in the 2000s, but I don't remember how much he paid for it because when you're a kid, you don't think about those kind of things. But me personally, that's probably the most I've spent on a ticket so far in my adulthood.
All right. Mike, what about you?
The most I've ever spent, so not including this, in 2019, I went to a Toronto Maple Leafs game. A friend of mine had won some tickets, and the face value was $360, I think. Canadian. I mean, that's, and they were good seats. They weren't the best seats. Like, it's ridiculous how much those tickets cost. But the most I've ever paid, I think I paid around 200 Canadian, or was just shy of that. And I think it was the last Buffalo Bills game I went to. I know it was one of the Bills games. And I think, pretty sure it was the last one. They played the Patriots. Again, I think that was 2019 as well. Yeah, so I paid just, I don't know what that would have been in American at the time, say 150, something like that.
Were those good tickets, the Bills game?
Not great, no. I mean, they were at one of the end zones. They weren't the top level. I can't remember how Rich Stadium, or whatever it's called now, is configured. They were okay. They weren't great. Like, it wasn't like I was going to, hear Brady's calls from there by any stretch. But, I mean, that was the most. And it was probably because it was, Tom Brady and the Pats, right? And that's a divisional game as well. So I think we bought them off StubHub, and I think it was about $200 Canadian. So
okay. So, Hector, what about you?
It was recently, last June, I went to see Paul McCartney. And I budgeted for this. So I didn't think it was this much until I actually had to pull up the order slip just now just to see how bad it was. But it's it says order total $924. That was for 3 seats because I took my daughter and my wife. Right field box. So it was pretty close to the stage. So I'd never spent anything to that point, but I was like, I have to see Paul McCartney. I'd never seen him before. I would like my daughter to see Paul McCartney just because I'm a Beatles fan. I'd like her to at least see and be like, grow up and be like, oh, I got to see a living, Beatle before, they're all gone. So. And
you sure as shit are not going to see Ringo.
Yeah.
Not for $300.
Not for that much.
Exactly.
I mean, like all the all-stars in his band would have to be there and put on their own shows and,
So no regrets, Hector?
No. I mean, it was so amazing to see the audience sing along with all the songs. They turned the lights off and everyone you could just hear a string of voices throughout the whole. It was at Fenway Park, and you could just look around and just kind of just hear it echoing throughout the whole park. I got a couple videos, but that was one where I was just like, let me just dwell in this moment right now and just look around. And I could see my daughter's face. She's holding up the phone like in lieu of a lighter, they hold up phones now, and she's holding up the phone in the air, and she's just adorable. So her to know the songs too, because I play them in the car. It's just, that's just something that she'll have a good memory of, I think. And yeah, I loved it.
You didn't buy a ticket. You invested in a memory,
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I look at it. I do have a few videos I can be like, hey, when she's older and she's, she's engaged, and be like, look at this video,
Nick, you were going to say?
First of all, she's going to say, hey, Dad was cool at one point. That's like proof. But my thing is, I don't know about the others in the room, but I feel like as I get older and I go to these concert tickets, it's expensive now. I don't take as many photos or videos at all because I kind of want to enjoy the experience. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people are on their phones. It kind of takes away sometimes. And like, even if I take photos of it, how often am I ever going to look back at that concert? You know what I mean? But like the memory will live on forever.
Yeah.
So that's something I've taught myself over the years and absorb it.
I don't either. I don't take a ton of video or a ton of photos either. Because if you look around, you're going to find, especially with kind of bigger shows, you're going to find a lot of it on YouTube anyway.
Agreed.
Like somebody's going to post it. So,
of course.
Why bother?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
For me, I thought about it a little bit. It was a San Jose Sharks game against the Edmonton Oilers in San Jose in 2018. I was there for work, and I decided to stay an extra few days to visit California a little bit because it was my first time there. And I think it was Connor McDavid's 3rd season, 2018, around that time.
Yeah.
And he almost scored the goal of the season. Unfortunately, he missed the net by a few inches. But like he was coming near the face-off circle with the puck and someone tripped him. So he was on his knees and he kept sliding on his knees and kept stick-handing the puck and shot top corner, missed the net barely. And you could see that, holy shit, this guy, he was already something, but he was going to turn into something else even better. And I think the final score was like 5-2 Sharks. And it's ironic because I hate the Sharks. I'm a long-time Kings fan. So seeing all those jackasses in the stands doing the shark jaw thing during the power play, I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I couldn't say anything, because it was in San Jose. I didn't want to get my ass kicked,
I taught a kid years ago, great kid, and his uncle was Mike Ricci. And so, yeah. So, I mean, I think he went, 5th or 6th overall in that 91 draft.
1990, right? I think he was 4th, I think, with Jagger, Nolan, and Nedved.
Yeah, yes. Just like stacked. And so the boy that I taught, when he would come to Toronto or Buffalo or whatever, when the Shark, I think actually at that point, maybe he was playing for, or actually, no, he was in the office of Phoenix, I think.
Yeah, he bounced around a fair bit.
Maybe it was whatchamacallit. Maybe it was he was still with San Jose in the office, but he took my student to a Penguins game. So I think Jordan went down, or the boy went down to Pittsburgh, and he met Sydney, and he came in and he was so happy because he had like his picture with Sid the Kid, and it's pretty cool. So
wow.
Yeah. So I can't hate on the Sharks that much because like this, like I said, he was a great kid, and he had some great times with his uncles. So
nice. I don't even remember. It was like 110 US. Not that bad.
Can you imagine paying $110 like for a Habs game or a Leafs game? I couldn't even imagine.
That's like a normal ticket now in the States. Yeah. I hate to say that's actually kind of a deal.
Yeah. It's super a deal.
And I had good seats. I was like in the corner, maybe 10th row. So it was good.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it was a Sharks game, but it was a nice experience and the arena was nice as well.
What's it like to leave an arena when it's hot outside though? Because that's something we don't experience here.
Of course, because the Leafs don't play a lot in the playoffs.
Listen, thank you. Well done.
No, it was pretty awesome, honestly. And that trip was amazing. So recommended. If you get a chance to make it to California, do it. Okay, so we can. Anyone else wants to add something to the?
I just wanted to add one more thing because I was just thinking about after my daughter, because that was my daughter's first concert. My daughter's second concert was Imagine Dragons, so I'm really glad it wasn't the other way around.
The fire breathers.
I'm really glad that she can say that her first concert was Paul McCartney and not the other way around.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty, high bar to.
Yeah. And they're both at the same venue, so it was.
Where was it?
Fenway Park.
Fenway.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of concerts there now because I think they even have, so not just Fenway Park, but then there's adjacent to that, they've actually built another concert venue. Okay. It's like the MGM at Fenway, I think is what it's called. So yeah, they bring a lot of revenue into Boston just concerts alone now instead of just sports. It's crazy. They have to make up for all the Patriots losses. So yeah. No Tom Brady, no money.
Yeah, probably going to struggle for a little while.
Yeah, they deserve I'll say it. I'm from New England. Yeah, they can go without winning every championship for a while. Take a break.
Yeah. Okay. So just a quick aside. Okay, Mike, I know you follow hockey, but I don't know if Nick, Hector, you are big hockey fans?
I follow it because my dad's a big hockey fan, but I'm not hardcore into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I know of it and somewhat.
Every one of my friends are Bruins fans, and I'm not really big to sports, but I will occasionally check in on the Bruins from time to time, or the Las Vegas Knights because of the playoffs. But that was it.
Yeah, because the draft was yesterday and today, and I heard some Chicago fans saying something to the effect of they've suffered long enough or something. Fuck off. You won 3 cups in the tens, so Anyway,
I have friends that are
Talk
doing.
to a Leafs fan.
I have
please.
friends that are doing DraftKings, and I am terrified of even the thought of doing that on my phone because I know that I'd be playing it nonstop, and then and the next thing you know, I'm
future
like,
gambling.
all right, do I really need to make a house payment this month?
Well,
Can I
Mike
refinance this soon?
Mike Drew knows this because we're both big wrestling fans, but they now have that with wrestling DraftKings, and to me, that's like the dumbest fucking thing you could ever bet on is wrestling. Because first of all, it's scripted, but also but some of the things that they'll bet on, Mike, and you can back me up on this, Mike, if you know what I'm talking about.
I haven't looked, but I know they do it. Yeah.
Who gets the first pinfall? Who's gonna get disqualified, or what happens? It's like, okay, people that know wrestling knows things can happen that can change at the drop of a hat, or someone gets injured. I don't know. It's like the dumbest thing ever.
It's like gambling on The Bachelorette or something. Like it's like. But in Vegas, you can do that. You can gamble on anything. They're like nothing is safe there, so it's crazy.
It blows my mind. And they pimp it out, especially on AEW, and I'm just like, no, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick, I didn't mean that. I think you got your explicit rating.
Every episode, just in case, I check that box. Explicit content? Yes, sir. Click.
I don't curse usually, so when I curse, it means something.
I just imagine you guys do a completely clean episode, and it's like, oh, I need something to put in here, and then you just at the end just go, fuck.
This episode's called Kimasabi, so it's all good.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Mr. Falcon in the Alps. Okay, so this is the end of part 1, EETF 51, and join us for EETF 52. Thanks.